8 minutes past 9 o'clock. You're listening to Melbourne's home of sport. It's evenings with me, Craig Harper. Michael Hall is in the studio. Jackie Lauder is in the studio. But before we do that, I will tell you that yesterday I did a speaking gig down at Summers, the thriving metropolis of Summers. The Lord, I think it's called the Lord Summers Camp. What an interesting experience. About 150 very loud, vocal males, most of them which were... Have you heard of this, the Lord Summers Camp?
Yes, I have.
Wow, what a culture shock. I just kind of swanned in there, reasonably laid back, and it's mayhem. It's organised mayhem. But anyway, the point of that intro was that I met a young man yesterday who I met him only briefly, and he spoke before I spoke. He got up and shared part of his story. His name is Thornton. We're going to chat to him in a moment, but... and it's fair to say, and he would say this, he's not a public speaker. He's got another path, but he did very well. But I could hear the nerves. But you know what I loved? I loved the absolute passion. I hear lots of speakers because I'm a speaker and I'm at conferences all the time. And this man impacted me more than most speakers than I've ever heard. Not because it was some awesome presentation, although it was more than adequate, but because his conviction and his passion for what he was talking about moved me. And I actually thought you might be able to give this young man a little bit of a chop out, and Jackie Lauder, who's a psychologist, Sean and myself, I thought we'd welcome you into the studio. So g'day, mate.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Now, you have an organisation called Anonymous X. Now, I want you to share the story. Just tell us how it came about, starting perhaps, if you would, with the story about your cousin, and from there.
Well, first off, thank you for the extremely kind words.
Mate, you're great. Mate,
I was blown away.
Yeah, no, you did a great job, and you created a lot of connection. And it's like, for me anyway, I don't really care about how shiny or rehearsed or articulate or polished people are, because I look past all that, which is why I like Michael Hall. He is none of those things, but he's the real deal. All right, so tell us what was the genesis for your organisation and for the work that you're doing.
Well, basically, at the start of my journey, I guess, I kind of felt like I always wanted to do something with my life, but I didn't know exactly what it was, and I went through, my whole teenage years not knowing, and leading up to Christmas Eve last year, we had a few dramas obviously within our family and things like that, and I always had a thing with my mum where I'd always stay home Christmas Eve, religiously. I wouldn't go out Christmas Eve and I'd stay home with my mum. It was just, I decided that I was going to help out people that were homeless and less fortunate, and I decided I was going to go to Hong Kong to go and get all this stock, and people were calling me midweek going, where are you? And I said, I'm in Hong Kong, just, grabbing some stock and things like that, because I wanted to give them clothes that were new and basically build off this Anonymous X brand. And when I was thinking about where I wanted to go on Christmas Eve, a place that resonated a lot with me was the Flemington Flats, and obviously the commission housing down there. And
I know them well. I've worked in them.
Yeah, and so my cousin unfortunately passed away there, and from an overdose, and it was extremely hard, I guess, going there knowing that he had passed there under circumstances that we obviously wish we could have avoided and should have been avoided. Obviously, your first instinct is to, under those circumstances, obviously won't go into too much detail, but is to act violently or act, erratically instead of doing
retribution.
That. Yeah, and so I thought, well, instead of going there and just kind of, I guess, I thought about the little brothers and sisters, and I thought that instead of going there and, showing them the same thing that they're probably used to seeing, go and try and do something different. So someone the same age as their older brother or sister, and go in and give them things with no ulterior motive. You're just going there because you want to, for them to see something different. And so I didn't know at that point whether I'd have an impact or not, and whether, it would make any difference in their lives. But I knew that it was something different to what they would normally see. I could come down there with, people, to, as I said, to get that retribution, but to go there and give them presents and to give them food and to see the reactions on some of their faces, that was the defining moment for me. Literally putting a little hat and a ball in a kid's hand, and when he looked at me, words can't explain that connection that I felt with this kid. I've never met him before, but he was waiting for me to. It's like he was expecting me to take it back off him, and he didn't realise why I was there with all these vans and all these clothes and food. It's like, why are you here? Why are you bringing this to us? Like, do you know what I mean? And that was a shock for me because I did it off my bat, but that night is basically the starting point of how much I realised how much a little bit can make a big difference in someone's less fortunate's life. And I guess that's what motivates me, I guess, every day is that, you know, the little things we take for granted mean a lot to some other people.
I told you, Mick Hall, he's the real deal. So you're working with people who are disadvantaged. We're chatting with Sean Thornton from Anonymous X. You'll hear more about that organisation over the years. Don't worry about that. A young man on a mission. So who are the people that you want to help, Sean? Who are these people?
Basically, through our volunteers program that I've decided to every fortnight we run. So we go out, and in the first 3 or 4 months, I initially went out by myself, and I just went to all the hotspots in the city and as close-ish to the city as I could because that's kind of where I knew where to go, and tried to find out where they were sleeping and where they were staying and form relationships with people on the street.
So you're talking about the homeless?
Yeah. And so I guess my reason was for that, as dangerous and as silly as it might sound, going by myself. I couldn't take anyone else under my supervision or anything like that at that point. I wanted to kind of get the feelers out there by myself and find out where's safe to go and where's not safe to go, so that when I go and deliver the donations and stuff that we get, that they've got a familiar face there, because it's realistically we're going to their house, and it's like, you know, if someone rocks up at your house with 10, 12 people, you know, what are you guys doing at my joint? And I look at it the same way, as that even if it's a pillar or, you know, a little corner in an alleyway, that's their house, and I need to respect the fact that that's their house. So we try and encourage that it's a way of forming relationships with them. We don't just go and give them clothes and we take off. I encourage all my volunteers to sit down and we talk to them, and we treat them like equals, like anyone should. And online, I just encourage people to I want to try and remove that stigma and that, you know, that stereotype of a homeless person, they're an alcoholic, they're a drug addict. And I guess if I can get people to kind of be consciously aware of the decision they're making once they see something, that, you know, that they can change their mindset so that they might see the person next time and actually want to help them or talk to them. And
Sean, what's your background like, as far as, you know, school or study? Because you're not very old.
No, 28.
Yeah.
I'm getting old, nearly 30. No background at all, really.
So, like, at school, did you want to do, I don't know, counselling or anything like that? Or because you sort of led the story in with, you know, your connection with your mum, and she obviously raised you pretty much as a single mother from the sounds of it. As well. So, I mean, it's a pretty impressive thing to go out there and do. I mean, what do your mates think about this?
My mates are very supportive, but at the same time, what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm doing on a daily basis, and they see the effort that I go to, and at the moment there's $0 coming in, but there's a lot of hours put in to doing what I'm doing, so they're kind of, I guess, looking at it from an outsider's point of view, going, you know, when are you going to start
making
doing
money,
things for yourself and things like that. And I understand that obviously money, I mean, it'll assist me in terms of progressing with what I'm doing, but at the moment I like to concentrate on more about transparency and branding and having that credibility that if money was to ever come into it, that they're not going to question it for a second, my motive, that I've done it for so long without any money. I've never asked for a grant. I've never asked for anything, and I don't put it online. People that know me well enough, and especially the supporters I have, they know that there's not an inch of me that's motivated by money. It's the fact that I get paid by gratitude from the people that I meet, and the fact that I know that I'm motivating them, or I'm providing some assistance, whether it's clothes and essentials.
It's called unconditional love, Tiger. It sounds a bit warm and fuzzy,
altruism,
but it's
finest.
And I mean, it's fantastic. And I think what you're saying, Sean, is that you don't have an agenda. There's no hooks. There's no catches. And I think people, you know, like if you were about money, mate, you wouldn't be doing this. There's nobody who's going to be doing what you're doing. There's a lot of way easier ways to scam money from people, and what you're doing is something that's really quite outstanding.
I love the fact that, you know, you could have gone one of two ways. You know, like you're at that crossroads. You're at the we call it the jumping off place. You know, and it sounds to me like you came to a crossroads or the jumping off place, and you could have gone, you know, one of two ways. And I love the fact that you've chosen to, instead of seek retribution, you've decided to give. I mean, that is incredible, and it's. I mean, surely correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I guess it's like in giving you actually receive.
Absolutely.
You know, probably receive more than what you're giving.
Yeah. But it's a lot of things that, well, even though there's no financial return, the self-satisfaction you get out of it. And in terms of, you could even say it's selfish because I love doing it so much because of how much I get out of it. And we don't do anything unless there's something in it that we enjoy. I mean, that's...
There's a big emotional... I mean, I know from a psychology perspective, dealing with clients, and I see my job as a major privilege, and Mick and I have spoken about this before, you know, when people do share their stories, but as you said, they're letting you into their home. Emotionally, that's a really tough gig for you to be doing every day. How are you managing that?
It's interesting, actually, because when I first the first month maybe, I've got a very close family friend of mine, Dom Sparrow, who's done a lot of work with the Salvation Army for many, many years, and he deals with a lot of youth, and I sat down with him for lunch, and I basically spoke to him, you know, what's it like on a day-to-day basis, because I'm one of those people who I get attached, and I see people who's unfortunate, and I want to help them, and I'll do anything I can to try and help them. But I needed to understand the difference between dedication and desperation. And he sort of basically, he didn't hold back. He just said, it's tough, and you've got to, you know, make this and that. And I said to him, okay, I can't do that, because I was going to study youth work, and I paid for the course. And I didn't do a day's worth of it because I needed to realise that instead of me being able to deal with them once they've got the problem, I wanted to create something where I could try and prevent the problem from happening. And so I think a lot of that is the stigma, and a lot of that is the stereotype, and getting to know them more and more. I think that's just as important as the people that are already currently dealing with them once they've got the problem.
Yeah, well, there's definitely, for what you're doing, there's a role, because I think one of the big things we do miss is the preventative side of things. I think we have a lot of great programs out there for when people are already in trouble, but we don't have enough programs that are out there and people out there that are trying to prevent it, and it's putting a massive strain on our health system, but it's putting a massive strain on our society and the relationships we just have as communities these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I was interested in hearing, you know, when you talked about your cousin and he passed away in some unfortunate circumstances in the Flemington Flats, and I know them well. Like I said, I worked there, so I worked with the Salvation Army for a number of years. And I worked with the homeless men of Melbourne CBD, and I worked through all the Flemington Flats and around, you know, around West Melbourne and certainly around there. And I understand the demographic of person that's there, that's really struggling, and it's a hard life. You know, like those people in those flats, they need hope. And to me, that's what I see coming from you. So I don't. You look at it in your way, but from where I sit, I see you dishing out hope. I see those connections that you make with people, providing that hope. Now that hope, when we talk about preventative kind of strategies and that type of stuff, I mean, that's got to be a major component. Right? If someone's living in the Flemington Flats and they haven't yet got an addiction or they haven't picked up, I'm telling you, they need hope from somewhere. They need to know that someone gives a crap.
It's funny you say that, because there's three things that I've got in front of me here that you basically said. There's someone somewhere out there that cares. That's it. And the other one was homeless, not hopeless.
Absolutely.
And this is funny you touched on both of those things that are right in front of me, because
it's the key ingredient.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if they lose all hope or they lose all faith in humanity or people in society, they already feel like they're disconnected from it, you know, initially. So when they find that someone normal, so to speak, comes and talks to them and pays attention to them and listens to them, not just, you know, hears them out while they have their say and then they go. We forge a relationship with them that, not to the point where they rely on us, because we don't promise them anything that we can't provide, and we don't say that we're the solution to everything you have, because we're not. We're very straight and honest, but they can see through it that we're not, you know, we're not talking crap. We're serious about what we're doing, and we actually do care. And so obviously everyone that gets involved with Anonymous X, I encourage everybody that they go through a process where they come and travel with me the first night and stay in my convoy, and I guess they can kind of see how I go about it, and obviously throughout the night I talk to them about, you know, why I'm doing it. And a lot of people know what we do, but until they get to spend a lot of time with us, they know why we do it, and I think that's extremely important.
So the role that you're in and what you're doing out there, it's really important. And it's really important, not just because, isn't it great that you're out there doing altruistic stuff and blah, 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 but the relationships that you're forming with these people because of your motivation and the way that you're going about it, it holds weight. Yeah, it holds weight with people. So when you go and talk to someone and they start to connect with you and they realise they can see through and they understand that you're actually there because you really do give a crap, right? And there's actually no benefit to you financially for doing it, that holds a lot of weight with people. This is you on your own doing it, and it puts you in a unique position, and you are in a unique position to help many people, and I believe you will, and you are.
And I think the thing, Mick, too, also is you've told me many times how discerning and how perceptive addicts are and alcoholics are, and people who live in those circumstances where they're literally, it's a day-to-day existence. They're super smart, they're super perceptive, and they don't let people in easily.
They are. We talk about street smarts. Now, I've got street smarts. I've done my time in prison. I've lived on the streets and done all that sort of stuff, but I've been out of it for a fair while now, 15 years or so. Right? These guys that live in the Flemington high-rises in Holland Court and all the walk-ups and all that sort of stuff. I mean, these guys are street smart, right? And they know how to read. They know they can see through everything. They're incredibly intelligent people in certain ways. And when someone's real, they know it. And if somebody can be taken advantage of, they know as well. Absolutely. And that's where it can start to get sometimes. If things aren't done or things are handed out too easy, that can sometimes become a bit of a problem too, because there can be an expectation that where's my goodies? I'm here. You're meant to be here. But it's different when you know that someone's coming from the goodness of their heart, not attached to any other organisation. They're just somebody that's kind of started this up. I think there's a difference there, and the guys can see that. They'd be able to see that.
Sean, what's your long-term vision? Like, what do you want to see this go to, I guess?
Yep, put that answer on hold because that is a great question, and I look forward to that answer. Welcome back to Melbourne's Home of Sport. I'm just doing a little bit of air drumming, and it's fair to say that I look like a newborn foal. Nicola's over there playing on his phone, and young Sean Thornton, well, he's not that young, but he's young compared to us, is making his radio debut, and he's absolutely smashing it. He's got his media team in here, his entourage is taking photos of him, and he will be all over the interwebs very soon. And you're doing beautifully, mate. You didn't bring me an anonymous hex cat, but
that's actually live. There's a red bag out there. It looks like a Christmas bag. There's actually beanies in there for everyone.
Oh, right yeah.
If you don't actually believe me, do you want to open it?
No, I believe you. I actually thought you were doing the Santa.
I believe you. I'm going to open it and have a look.
It's Santa's bag.
So, I like when that happens.
Now, you know what I love, Jackie Lauder? Oh, I'm loving that. That's good.
That's yours, Craig.
You could do...
You got your little Santa sack there.
Let's put that down because that's not visual. It's not good radio. You know what I love? You and I have spoken a lot about depression and about people living without passion or purpose.
Uh-huh.
And you and I both know people who have got lots of money but not lots of joy.
Yep.
Right? What I love about Sean, not that he's not making any money, well, he's not doing it for money, but he's doing something essentially where he's working for nothing, but his emotional and his spiritual bank balance is going up. There's a lot of joy, but there's also a lot of passion and purpose. And when you find that thing, I mean, you've found your thing, Mick, which is helping people change their lives. I think I've found my thing. And when your passion and your purpose collide and you are contributing, and I know this sounds warm and fluffy, we've still got to make a few bucks, but there are people that reach 50, 60 years of age and still don't know what they want to do with their lives. Yeah. I coach a lot of people who are in their 40s who go, you know what, I've been working for 25 years and I hate what I do.
Yeah. I think that's a massive portion of the population, and there's a lot of pressure on kids to know what they want to do when they leave school, and they're 18. And if you don't know what you want to do, go out and get some life experience. I'm a big fan of having the gap year where they go and they travel or they get a job. But I read an article a few years ago that said the average person finds a career they want between 33 and 39.
In this room is that the majority of people here have found their career, right, or their passion through some experiences that they've had in life.
Yeah. What have you learned in the first year and a bit of Anonymous Sex? So, a year and a bit ago, you were just another bloke probably trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life, amongst other things. And you started the organisation, you started doing things, reaching out. Now when you say you've got a team of people around you, how does that work? How do people get involved? Tell us about how it all works, because obviously we want to give you a plug, and we want to try to leverage things like a little bit of media exposure for you, because you're doing some good stuff. So how do people get involved?
Well, we're obviously online, so we've got, I think, 5 or 6 social media accounts from Instagram, Facebook, obviously our website and things like that. So most people can go to www.anonymousx.com.au, or on Facebook it's X Anonymous, and either way you can email us directly on the page, and I have a girl involved with that, so she can help me with the influx of messages and support that we get, because it was a lot, and I couldn't. The start, it was hard, because as things were growing and it was building, obviously so was the workload for me. You did everything. Yeah. You were the CEO, the cleaner, the janitor, the secretary, the PA, the admin.
We've been there, Craig.
The admin. Mate, I was exactly the same. I was the head trainer, I was the cleaner, I was the cook, I was the secretary.
Tough gig.
Marketing manager, branding. Yeah, security. That's exactly right, because at the start, my mum will be the first one I used to go and tell you the stories. I had an iPhone, and I didn't even know how to get because I write poetry, that's my releases writing, and I used to have poetry on my phone, and she was like to me, how are you going to get this stuff off your phone? If you drop it, you're going to lose everything. So she got me a laptop. Right. And I asked her, how do I get the stuff off my laptop? My phone to the laptop. Like, that's how basic I was 12 months ago. And it's amazing that through that journey now...
Falling a little bit more in love with Sean every time. Me
too.
He gives to everybody, he writes poetry.
And just, I'm thinking of asking him out.
You might find me and him spooning in the green room later.
I'll join you then.
And then just from that point there, it was just... So I obviously had to go online, and I didn't realise how much there was to it, but as I went along... Now I find myself learning how to film and to edit and to make music, and like you said, the marketing, the advertising, the branding, all of it. I knew nothing at the start. Like, literally, no credentials. I had no prior experience in this area. I kind of learned on the spot as I went. But like you guys keep saying, with the passion and things like that, the passion and the drive, that's what motivates me to keep learning. So it's like, when I went to school with maths and things like that, there's certain subjects that I just didn't relate to, therefore it wouldn't sink in.
No one does.
Yeah, and so with people, I could always, relate to people. Like, I would always be that sort of person where someone would have a chat to or feel comfortable talking to. And I didn't know that was an ability. I just thought it was just my role.
It's not labelled as a skill. I think it's not appreciated enough, the skills. The students these days, they get marked up if they're good at physics and chemistry. But if you're good at people skills and some of the health sciences, you get marked down for that. And yet it's an actual life skill, and it's not taught anywhere. And I say this to people all the time, who's taught you how to communicate properly? But
isn't that amazing that kids do not get taught? It's the most important interpersonal skill. It can make or break your life and your career. It will make or break your life. Right? And yet there's not, to my knowledge, in most schools, there's not one lesson on interpersonal communication.
No. But it goes back to, I guess, the question I had to you before is now you're saying all the stuff you're learning. Where are you going to take it? What do you want to do now?
From this point, I haven't actually even mentioned this to my team yet, but we just got our first warehouse on, I think it was yesterday. We haven't got the actual keys yet, but we'll hopefully get them on Thursday. So we've got our 2 storage units, and now that we've got the warehouse, it opens up different avenues that I've been building. So obviously I sat down and said, okay, well, what do I want to do and where do I want to go? And my short, medium, long-term goals. What can I do now? What can I do then? And I'll do it at the right time. And where I see it being ultimately is, I guess it's a place where, in my head, if I was to close my eyes and envision what I see it being in 5-10 years' time, is a place where people can go that they feel safe. And I want the Blue X that we all wear proudly to resemble somewhat of like a Red Cross, that if someone that's homeless, less fortunate, or dealing with any form of adversity, they can see someone that's wearing a Blue X and know that they can go up to them and they can speak to them and be like, I feel safe talking to them, just solely because they're wearing a Blue X. And I don't hand these out lightly. I bought stock, and the idea was to sell it so I could make some money to pay for my storage unit, to pay for that. But I give half of it out because I meet people that genuinely care about what I'm doing and show the support. So I give it away. I just find myself giving it away. But
all right, now I'm paying for my hat. I feel bad.
No,
I'm paying for my beanie now.
no, it's like they're only $1 each, so that's fine.
It's all right. Craig's cost 100.
But what I'd like to have something set up that every company that's out there are doing something amazing, and I think that the people that are doing things that are really, really great don't necessarily get as much exposure as what they may deserve. And I went to this conference right at the beginning, and it was all these different entrepreneurs and people wanting to do different things all around Australia and internationally to make a difference in the world. And the whole time everyone was talking, and especially in Q&A, when they would say, ask the lady the question, and then she would answer them, everyone else in the room was talking, right? Because they weren't literally interested in what they were doing. They were there for their own reasons, which is fine, because they're all doing great things. But I put my hand up for the first time, and this is the first time I ever spoke in public, and I said it was interesting because all I did at the start was I thanked everybody, and I basically said, how to explain it, like I introduced myself, and then I gave credit to everybody. I said everyone in this room is doing an amazing thing. And I said, but the only thing I noticed is that when it wasn't specific to what you're doing, you lost interest and you started speaking. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't care, but as soon as I started speaking about people collectively, everyone stopped talking and everyone had to listen to what I was saying. And I was the youngest person in the room by 20 years. And at the end, they come up and talk to me. But my attitude is that if you've got so many people out there doing good things, we can't expect to do it all ourselves, and that many hands make light work. So if you're doing something great, and it might be in a different area, somehow at some point you can work together to some degree, even if it's a contact, even if it's something. There's got to be a way where we can all work together with, no matter what demographic adversity, no matter where you're from. There's got to be a way, if we all work together, we've got to be able to eliminate certain problems in society. And I just don't think that there's that correlation there yet. I don't think there's that
collaboration.
Yeah, and I agree.
And
do you know what is what's a really interesting thing? What you have a lot of, Sean, and also Mick has the same, is you have a lot of emotional intelligence. And so, you know, what you're talking about when you were at school and you just connected with people and you didn't realise that was a skill. You know, in terms of what you've got to do and in terms of your mission and your purpose and your passion, the kind of intelligence that you've got is the most important kind. You can have all the academic, and I'm sure you've got that as well, but you can have all the academic insight and awareness and education in the world, but if you're a dud with people, you can't build what you want to build. And the fact that you are a great listener and the fact that you have the awareness and the insight that you do, and I believe that's innate. It's generally not learned. You can improve it, but you're kind of either born with it or you're not. And, of course, you evolve those skills as you live on the street and do all that kind of stuff. But for you, it's very clear to me that it's just part of who you are. We've got to go to a break. How do you find your volunteers? Where do these people come from? If people want to get in contact with you and either do some work with you or support you in another way, how does that happen?
The easiest way, I guess, to get in contact is through Facebook or through our website. And then they obviously provide their details and then we contact them. And that's usually me personally. And I just like to, for example, if someone was to donate for the first time, I always try and make the effort to, the first time they donate, I come out and I see them, because I want them to, I figure if you're at the top and you're a boss and if you're whatever, you've got to be down in the trenches with the people and never forget from where it started. And I don't want to ever lose touch of that and concentrate so much on how the business side of it's going. I don't want to lose touch with the people and why they're believing in what I'm believing and why they're trying to help out with what I'm doing. So I'll go and meet them and I'll speak to them, and then from that point onwards they, I guess, find it a lot easier, or they believe a lot more in it, because online it seems like it's a big fancy organisation, and I don't think they realise how, at the start especially, I was getting people in different states ringing me and saying, can you come over and basically run our businesses for us or teach us how to do what you're doing? And I'm like, at that point I'm like, I've got everything in my room and my garage, but it was just the way that I publicise it online to, you know, I want people to perceive that we're serious about what we're doing and we're not taking any shortcuts. And I think that when people get involved with what they do, or when they donate, they're donating because they want to. And when they actually come out and volunteer, that's when that's that tipping point, because they actually see where the donation's going and they actually get to see the gratitude on that person. So instead of putting $50 out of your bank account each month, and that's great and it's helping somebody, but when you actually let's say, for example, with that $50, go buy a bunch of food and a bunch of clothes and go and give it to a person, and you actually see it in their face like that. Wow, like it's something you cannot explain. You have to experience. And I think that the volunteering program, although it's not as it's not as big as what others might be, I think the impact we're having with the people individually is doing really well. And I mean, I send out all my volunteers on every Friday night. We go to all the crisis centres, all the outreach workers, and we top them up. So so we go to Flagstaff, we go to Hanover, we go to Women's Shelter, and I've got all the Christmas cards sent from all these organisations saying thank you for Anonymous X for what you guys have been doing. And that's all just based from online and creating awareness and people my age helping out. We didn't buy any of it, but these places, they all get funding. But that's the attitude I want to get across, is it doesn't matter, you're doing something great and we want to assist you. Even though with this big in comparison, we still want to be able to contribute to what you're doing. Because if there ever becomes a time where we might need some assistance, or we might need, a couple of donations, or exchange some toothbrushes for some canned food, then maybe that'll be there.
I'm interested, the name seems really obvious, but how'd you come up with that?
I was just thinking the same thing, Jackie. Looking at that big X there, and I was thinking, all right, let's dig into that. Yeah, good one.
I'm going to let it slip out of the bag. So basically, it was, in a sense, an accident, because I have another business name, which I was working on initially, and because I had no experience with social media, I had to create a Facebook page, and that was testing the waters. And I thought, okay, well, if this page works, then I'll keep going with it. But if it doesn't, then no one will know, because it's anonymous. So the X was in my original name, but when I signed up for the Facebook page, you have to do a first and last name.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I can't put Bob X or, for Sean X. Anonymous meant anonymous. So I wrote Anonymous X. And it obviously exceeded any of my expectations at the start. And originally it was to be an entity to what I wanted to do in the future. And it's just worked out so much better than what I thought. I was assuming that it would go okay, but not as well as it has. And
it fits so well with what you're actually saying, is that people, it's not about getting personal status, like thanks for what you're doing. Everyone who works with you, they're anonymous people for a really common and good cause.
Yeah.
So it's, it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's no name.
Agreed.
It's just X.